You know, I'm something of a podcast myself. I'm something of a podcast myself. You know, I'm something of a podcast. I'm something of a podcast. I'm something of a podcast myself.
All right. Welcome to yet another episode of Something of a Podcast, the only podcast brave enough to say, I'm something of a podcast myself. We are back after a week break, which is fine. It may happen semi-regularly from now and then, so just deal with it, people. It'll be good. We come out when we come out. I am Mike Gamms, as always, and with me is the extremely talented KaiVonDoom. Say hello, Kai.
Hello, Kai.
There it is. And this is episode 13. I haven't lost track of count. Even the last episode was episode 11-2. We are now to episode 13, which is, I guess, lucky, or I guess we're about to find out. Before we get into our couple topics here, what's new with you, Kai? Anything to report?
I just come to the Boulder open mic if you're in Rochester, although it's off on Monday because of Memorial Day, which I always forget about.
Yeah, you're not supposed to forget. That's why it's called Memorial, like to remember. I don't know. But yeah, so every Monday at Boulder, you can see Kai hosting a mic there in Rochester. Occasionally, I'll make a cameo appearance from now and then. Yeah, it's a good time. Come on out. And what one is 1 week a month, like the queer night, queer and femmes.
Yep, it's usually the last Monday, so it would have been this upcoming Monday, but the veterans
Well, no,
ruined it.
it's not for veterans. Veterans Day is for veterans. Memorial Day is for the dead ones. That's how you remember it.
Those wouldn't they still be veterans
Oh wait, maybe you're right.
though? And still served.
Yeah, I guess so. They were veterans, but not all veterans are Memorial Day. So, like, if you see a veteran celebrating Memorial Day and he's alive, tell him, "Not yet, motherfucker," or don't do that.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll go over very well.
Yeah, that's gonna go over well with our big military listener base that we have there. I know we're really popular on all the forts and the camps around, yeah. If you were exposed to this podcast at Camp Lejeune, you may be eligible for a part of a class action lawsuit. I don't know if you've seen all those commercials. It's always something about the water, but if you're exposed to us, great. Yep. Not much is new with me really, other than that I broke my arm, which if you want to hear all about that, I've posted more than one video about it. All my arm jokes are on there, so you could do that if you are really into that. I don't really want to get into that here today. I'm bored of talking about it already, and I'm only on day number 10. But yeah, that's that. You been watching any good television lately?
I've actually just started watching Reba for the first time because
Reba
it's just landed on Netflix. Yep.
just came out on Netflix, right? So you just started watching Reba?
Yeah, I had. So no one in my household really watched it. It was one of those shows that just like missed me growing up. But I am just on a mission to watch every sitcom, so I had to watch it. And it's really interesting. It's a lot different from what I expected it to be. Because obviously it's starring Reba McEntire, and the show's starring her as like she's a single mom, and in the first episode, like she gets divorced. She finds out that her husband's mistress is pregnant at the same time that her teenage daughter is pregnant. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of ways this show is really progressive for its time, and a lot of ways that it's extremely backwards that have been interesting to me.
Uh, so I will say that I too have recently started watching Reba on Netflix. I am several episodes into the first season. I probably watched like 5 or 6 episodes of the first season. I too had never really seen it before. It sort of missed me. Nobody really watched it at my house growing up. The kind of years that it came out was kind of like too late for me to be watching sitcoms like that as much. And then like the Reba thing, it sort of was country branded to me. And I was like, oh, I'm not into country, anything but country or whatever when I was a teenager or whatever. So I was I didn't really consider it really, didn't really think too much about Reba McEntire, like the show at the time, but have since grown to realize that Reba's pretty cool, relatively, and I've been visiting one of my aunts a lot, and she loves Reba. She watches Reba all the time, so I've already seen bits and pieces of it, and I've heard that it was good. My aunt's always talking about it. Then I seen you started telling me about Reba, so I was like, okay, fine, I'll watch it. But it's been interesting.
Yeah.
How far along are you?
Yeah. So I think, in the middle of the second season. And so far, there's two things that have really like stuck out to me. So the show takes place in Texas, and obviously Texas politically is just like a whole thing. So
Right.
the pregnant teenage daughter and even the divorce have been just like, it's such a huge deal, like in a way that you wouldn't really think of it. Like every sitcom today has like a divorced parent, but
Mm-hmm.
at the time I was like, oh my God, she's divorced. This is crazy. Like she's I don't know, she's like a harlot and she's
Yeah.
letting her harlot daughter run around pregnant. And like there's episodes where like the pregnant daughter is told she can't walk the stage at graduation, or she's told that she can't even attend the school anymore. They tried to send her to a different
Yeah.
school. And it's like, for a state that's so anti-abortion, the fact that they're treating this child like, oh yeah, you have this baby, we don't want to see it. We don't want you anywhere near our kids. We don't want anything to do with that.
Yeah, I got that
But
far. I seen that one, and then she's got the husband slash boyfriend slash baby daddy slash all the above in the situation too. Sorry, go
yeah.
ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
So like yeah, yeah, so the two kids that are like having the baby, they get married, which is very Southern. And they're just like, yeah, you two need to make this right, make this official. So they're married and in high school with a baby. And since the son, like the boy's parents are just like, no, we don't want anything to do with that. So he moves in with Reba and her family, which is a very interesting dynamic that, and like I said, it was super progressive for the time. Like the kids are living together, they're married, they're sleeping in one bedroom together. So it was, yeah,
Yeah, teenagers still at that, and it's
yeah,
like the whole Texas high school football dynamic thing going on in there too. That setting. Um,
yeah,
yeah. Did you I have a couple thoughts. Were you still going, or should can I
yeah. Okay, I just got two more things that I want
keep
to
going,
try to
keep going.
squeeze in.
Yeah, no
Okay,
need to
I don't want to
squeeze.
spend
Take your
too much time
time.
on.
Yeah.
So, so there's one particular episode that I just watched that made me say, okay, let's talk about this on the podcast. But there's an episode where so the daughter's name, the one that's having the baby, her name is Cheyenne, and her husband's name is Van. So Cheyenne and Van, they're like still teenagers at this point, but they're like fresh into college, still living with Reba,
Mm,
and they decide to go out and get food stamps
I
because
see.
Reba is unemployed and a single mom, so she's not bringing any money in. They're not bringing any money in because they're in college, so they just go out and apply for food stamps. Now, this completely pisses Reba off. She's like, "We are not those people. We don't take handouts from the government."
Mm.
But there's a scene where like Reba goes into like the social security office to tell them like, "Hey, my kids made a mistake. Take them off of food stamps. We don't do that." And so like the social worker is kind of like, "Oh, so you think you're better than all those people here? Aren't you a unemployed single mom? Don't you have a pregnant teenage daughter living with you? So what makes you think you're better than any of these people?"
Right.
So the episode started to go in a direction where it's like, "Oh, okay, this is a good lesson for her to learn," but it still ended with the message of, "No, we're too good to be on food
Oh, it
stamps and
still
we
came
don't
back
take money
around to
from the
that.
government."
I see.
Yeah, it still came back around where the kids are like, "You're right, mom, we'll get off of food stamps."
I see. Yeah, that is interesting. It's not that surprising, but yeah, you're like, it like starts to tackle the thing, but then it like lands right back to where it's not in the right, not on the right side.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it was
uh,
so close too.
yeah, th that episode that I didn't see that one yet, but that sort of vibe that you're describing is is sort of reminding me a lot of like say King of the Hill. That's a thing that happens, and it's
Mhm.
also set in
Yeah.
Texas, and so Hank would be having a similar like viewpoint as Reba in that situation where she's like, we don't take handouts. I tell you what, or whatever. I can't do a Hank,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
and he usually has that same sort of similar arc where sometimes he doesn't land at the right thing on that show. If you revisit that one too, there's still that sort of like
Yeah.
politics in there,
Mhm.
which is interesting. So that's what I was thinking. I was thinking of two other shows while I was watching Reba. One of them was like, oh, I see some King of the Hill ish type stuff in here.
Yeah.
And then another one is New Adventures of Old Christine, which I think
I've
Reba
never seen that show.
so that show could run. Are you familiar with it?
Mm. No.
It was Julia Louis-Dreyfus's show after Seinfeld and before Veep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a
Oh, yeah,
sitcom.
yeah.
Yeah,
Seen
yeah.
like
And so
previews, but no.
yeah, it was pretty decent, and it's like, but it came out after Reba. I looked it up, but basically she's the old Christine because her husband marries a new Christine. Like his new wife is named
Oh.
Christine. So the New Adventures of
Mhm.
Old Christine is divorced mom Julia Louis Dreyfus cohabitating, not cohabitating, but I think co-parenting with her ex-husband and his new obnoxious wife. So like very similar to the Reba dynamic on that in that level. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Yeah. And if
Yeah,
you're
no,
revisiting sitcoms, I think that's one that's maybe worth revisiting as well when you get around to it, or at least checking out a little bit. I haven't
yeah, I'll
watched
check it
it,
out.
but it's pretty good. And Julia Louis Dreyfus is great in everything. It's like
Oh yeah, I love her.
America's treasure.
Mm.
Um,
But yeah,
and yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say the last thing I wanted to point out about Reba though was that there are like a lot of weird gay jokes, but then it turns out that the son, the like little boy, Jake was his name in the show, but the actor's name is Mitch Holloman. So it turns out Mitch Holloman now is a trans like stand-up comedian.
Oh, I did not know
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. I just found that out the other day when I was like seeing what the actors are up to. Because I know the actor who played Van was in Shameless for a while.
Yeah,
So I'd seen him in a few things. So I was looking at the other kids, and it turned out Mitch Holloman is a stand-up comedian in LA, I think, and they are trans. So
I see.
recently came out, like I think within the past 2 or 3 years.
And it says they had a small part in The Hangover, which I don't remember that,
Oh,
but interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. I didn't know that. The only thing that else I wanted to say about Reba is similar is about the cast, and we mentioned the new wife character, which is Barbara Jean, BJ.
Mhm.
And I think I might have mentioned her on the podcast before, but she's played by Melissa Peterman. Oh yeah, because
Mhm.
Melissa Peterman, I think, was in one of the movies we talked about. I think she was in How High or something. It might have came up randomly. Something random it came up. But I love Melissa Peterman because she's the best. Like she's a game show queen right now. She has her own game show. Person Plays Her Thing. That's really good, and she's really great on it. But then she's also a regular on a bunch of other shows like 25 Words or Less and all this other stuff. And I love her. She's really great at all the games, and she's really fun, and she's cool. She's really funny as BJ on the show Reba.
Oh yeah,
And
she is hilarious.
I don't know if you've seen this. I meant to look it up, but Reba and Melissa Peterman have a new show coming out
Yeah.
this year. I can't remember the deeds on it, but I know that those two have a show coming out this
Yeah, I'm
year.
excited for that one.
Yeah. So keep your eyes open for that. I'm not sure where it is or what it's called or anything like that, but yeah, it will. Look for that. I guess I was just trying to see if I could find it right now, but I couldn't. Oh, I didn't know she was a coach on The Voice too, Reba. Oh yeah, I did know that
Yep.
actually. Yeah, that's kind of what I think that might even be related to her being on Netflix again. It's like there's maybe this sort of rejuvenation in like, oh yeah, Reba's cool as hell, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, any more thoughts on a television show from 20 years ago that we've been talking about?
No, that was all I had to say.
Okay, cool. Me too. And yeah. Uh so speaking of Netflix and things perhaps getting a second leg on Netflix, or in this case maybe an eighth leg on Netflix. Um I, of course, am talking about the triumphant return of a favorite movie of this podcast, Madam Web. You've seen this, right?
I think yeah. So Madam Web has been consistently like in the top 5 streaming every day since it debuted on Netflix. And I think it's that like phenomenon of like people wanting to see a movie so bad that it's good, like The Room or any of those other movies. So I think people now are just like getting high watching Madam Web at home to
Yeah,
laugh at it. Kind of like Morbius when Morbius debuted on Netflix,
right.
a similar thing happened. They even brought it back to theaters, which did not go
Yeah,
well.
they missed that mark. But I'm very happy for the Madam Web resurgence, and people I think are starting to actually get what the movie is, whether that's what it intended to be initially or not. It is a fun, like silly movie. Like all the people that were really mad about Madam Web and were saying that we were idiots for thinking that it was fun and good and liking it, or because they take it too seriously. And it's like you need to just um relax, chill. It's fun, it's ridiculous, it's wrong in many ways, but it is yeah, it's Sony's Spider-Verse, live action Spider-Verse. Like what are we expecting at this point? Have you rewatched it?
I haven't, but I do plan on rewatching it.
I rewatched it at least 3 or 4 times since it's been on Netflix. Not all of it, mostly about 5 to 10 minute increments at a time, because not since the TV show Lord of the Rings: Rings of Power has a work of uh, a movie or television show been so good at lulling me to sleep as Madam Web, a movie that I've already seen like 1+ times. Every time I put it on, within 5-10 minutes, I'm able to just go right to sleep. So it's been very therapeutic, medicinal even. So I've been taking Madam Web nightly medicinally for my insomnia, and it's been working great. But that's only because I've already seen it and appreciated it and loved it. I'm not saying that if you haven't seen it to go fall asleep to it, You need to watch it, study it, and try to learn from it. And then you can sleep to it after.
What did you learn from it?
Oh, what? Oh, right. I guess I should practice what I preach. What did I learned from Madam Web, um, that sometimes when there's like a great responsibility, you need great power in that order, as opposed to the other way. I can't remember the exact line. I guess I need to. Maybe I should try to stay awake a little longer this next time and really get the message of Madam Web, which is that if your dad is Don Johnson, one day you could start a harem of superhero spider girls. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that's an important life lesson.
Yeah. And I think that what's her name there? Johnson, Dakota, right? Dakota Johnson
Yep.
is when she initially did her press tour for this show, like this movie, it was like a big thing that she was kind of almost dogging the movie or walking back on liking the movie. And it'll be curious and like making fun of it on Saturday Night Live. And it'll be curious to see if she kind of like sort of changes that just slightly if it's now starting to get more liked, not necessarily liked, but popular in some way, or like more like I don't know. Be interesting if she sort of leans into that, and the rest of the cast, Sydney Sweeney and all of them, were kind of trying to distance themselves a little bit from it. But I wonder if they might start embracing it more now. I don't know. I don't know if the tide has changed on it that much, but people are watching it for sure.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how long it stays in the top 10 on Netflix.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that part of the reason it's doing well on Netflix is like part of the same reason that it exists is that it's like it's a Spider-Man movie, a Marvel movie that's not on Disney and in Marvel. So like not everyone is on Disney Plus and in the like Disney cult, but like we got our Sony Spider-Man movie that comes out on Netflix. Like you don't get other Marvel movies on Netflix. So all those kids out there that just got Netflix, because most people have Netflix is kind of the one that most people have, and you don't always have Disney. Like Disney is a little bit like, oh, you're fancy, you got Disney Plus at your house or whatever. But more people have Netflix. It's more the common man's streaming service. I'm just talking out my ass at this point. But
Yeah.
like, so it's happy that Madam Web is now out there for the masses. Yeah, it's right there alongside The Circle, and Reba, and yeah, other great classes like that. Do you have any more thoughts about Madam Web? Or
I feel like I've said all I could ever say about Madam Web.
yeah, we did that once already. That's like let's do a whole other thing where we revisit. I'm happy to do it. But I'm just here to gloat about that. We were right, that Madam Web rules. We've been Team Madam Web from the beginning. And all these, Johnny come latelys. I don't even know what I'm saying now. Okay. Anything else that you want to?
We're early adopters on the right side of
Yes,
history.
exactly. Just like every other cause, we are early on. We were there before y'all even heard about it. We were at the front lines of the web wars.
Yep.
I didn't watch my buddies die face down in the Madam Web wars for you to sit here and insult. Just I don't know what the rest of that sentence. I started out not great and just sort of fizzled from there. But what do you think? Should we take a break and then we could come back and we could finally get to the long-awaited top 3 Star Wars character conversation?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, okay, so we'll be back in, well, it'll be like 10 minutes for us, but it'll probably just be about 20 seconds for you. But anyways, all right. See you guys soon.
You know, I'm something of a podcast myself. I'm something of a podcast myself. You know, I'm something of a podcast. I'm something of a podcast. I'm something of a podcast.
All right,
myself.
welcome back from that exciting break. Y'all got to listen to our little jingle for a few seconds. I smoked a cigarette. Hi, did you have an all right break?
Yeah, I just went and got my laundry and folded it.
Exciting. Nice. Like those behind the scenes. It's something of a peek behind the scenes of something of a podcast. Cigarette breaks and laundry. That's what we do when you're listening to our jingle for a few seconds. But I am very excited about this week's top three. I think we first teased it a few weeks ago because I think our last episode didn't end up doing a top three. It was just a shorter episode. And the one before that, we had brought up this topic because it was the first week of May. And we were talking about May the 4th. And we were, so this is our a little bit late to the game, May the 4th edition of the top three, which is the very challenging topic of our top three favorite Star Wars characters, which is, yeah, that's a wide net that I cast there, but I think that we probably done our best to whittle it down. Did you want to start, or did you want me to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
So my first pick, and again, I tried to pick like less well-known characters, not less well-known, but less obvious characters. So my first pick is my background here is the character Star Killer from the video game Star Wars: The Force Unleashed. So that game was so underrated, amazing for its time, not even as a Star Wars game, but just as a video game. Like the storyline was amazing, the gameplay was so fun, it's super replayable, and the character was very interesting.
The Force Unleashed video games. The Force Unleashed. Which system or what console was that on? Or system, or was it on several?
So I think it was on the Xbox and the PlayStation 2. I'm not sure if it was on
PlayStation 2,
Game.
okay, got it. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
it was
right
like that
about-
era, like early
Yeah, cool.
2000s.
Nice. And Star Killer is that the one with the red lightsaber in the background?
Yep.
Yeah.
So he was, yeah, so he was a Sith character. So you kind of see him. You could kind of either go like Jedi or Sith in the storyline. So it was a very interesting game.
I see. So that was like the Sith character. I think I played the game. I've heard of the character. I'm trying to think. Have they made an appearance in anything else besides the video game?
I'm not sure. I think it was just the games, but I'm not sure.
I see. Because it's familiar. Hold on, let me look up right here. Gallon Merrick, is that right? Star Killer, is that the right person? I don't know. But that, yeah, okay, Star Killer, that's cool. I'll have to look more into the Star Killer because, like I said, I haven't played the Force Unleashed game before. I haven't played most of the Star Wars video games, to be honest, although I've heard many of them are really, really, really good. The Force Unleashed being one of the ones I heard was good. And then Knights of the Old Republic, I've heard is also really good. Is that what it's called, I think? Yeah,
Oh yeah, that one's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like two of those, and those, yeah. But those are the three I've heard the most about. Is like the Force Unleashed and Star Killer and all that, and then the two Knights of the Old Republic games. So that's cool. That's a good pick. I was not expecting that, and I like when you pick someone I'm not really super familiar with because that's always fun. Do you have more on Star Killer or for my first one?
No, I still got two other picks to get through.
Yeah. So did I freeze on your screen? No, okay. Maybe not. I thought I did for a second, but it might just be my computer being wackadoodle over here on my end. But it should be fine. I'm just gonna keep going. Okay. So, you ready for my first character? My top three
Yep.
Star Wars characters. So, I also tried to pick some like not the most obvious of characters, like the ones that not that everyone has heard of, but I'm also not too obscure. And so my favorite character, as soon as I thought of this topic, is easily my first pick. They're not like a lead star character, but they are, and they have a lot of arcs in the cartoons, and they never have appeared in live action, and have only appeared in cartoon, and have appeared in both the Clone Wars and Rebels. And I am talking about Hondo Anaka. Are you familiar with Hondo Anaka?
Yep.
Yeah, Hondo Anaka is the coolest character in Star Wars. It's so funny to me. For those that don't know, Hondo Anaka is a swashbuckling pirate, space pirate, like to every extent of the word, like almost like a stereotypical looking pirate, but in space, and has several run-ins with the teams in Clone Wars and in Rebels, and sort of has a good and bad side. Like they're kind of purely motivated by their own self, at least initially. And so they will play both sides. So play that they're neither Sith nor Jedi nor Republic, or they don't pick a side. He doesn't pick a side, him and his crew, and they kind of they kind of navigate that way. But I think Hondo Anaka has kind of become also a fan favorite character because he's very funny and has a really good comic relief character, and that is in part due because Hondo Anaka is voiced by legendary voice actor Jim Cummings. And are you familiar with Jim Cummings at all?
The name sounds familiar.
Yeah, so Jim Cummings is that's Winnie the Pooh for about 40 years, and Tigger, and is Pete in all the Goof Troop movies, Goofy movie, like the neighbor Pete, and probably a million other characters in hundreds of different shows, like Cat and Cat Dog, and it's just like one of them, this Tasmanian Devil and Looney Tunes, and this voiced these characters for 30, 40 years, and is like a legendary voice actor. And he does the voice of Hondo Anaka, and he does a really great job on it. And I wanted to bring up a set. So I follow Jim Cummings on Instagram, and following voice actors is like I recommend to everybody on Instagram. They make the best content because they do all the voices and all that stuff. And so Jim Cummings has a new podcast. I think it's called like In Tuned or whatever. And he has all the legendary voice actors from all this stuff who've just played hundreds of characters, and they come on and they not only like tell stories, but do their voices and stuff. So I definitely recommend following them on Instagram. It's really fun to see them. Like they all kind of lean into. He's one of the voice actors that really sort of lean into how beloved their characters are and wanting to provide fans with more content, and as opposed to like he'll do any of the voices like all the time and stuff like that. And it's just really cool. And so Hondo Anaka is one of my all-time favorite Star Wars characters. I love when they appear in anything. I'm hoping that soon they will make their appearance in the Bad Batch cartoon, but they haven't yet. He hasn't yet. And someday soon, I'm sure we may see a live action Hondo Anaka, and I look forward to that with great nervousness. Who knows how well that will end. But all right, so that's all I have to say about Hondo Anaka. Any thoughts on that? / what is your next choice?
No, that's a great pick. I should have seen that coming, but I didn't expect you to pick that one. My next pick is also has not been depicted in live action yet, as far as I know, but it is Mara Jade Skywalker. So
Okay.
she I think made her first appearance in the Star Wars novels, but she's Luke Skywalker's wife, and
Uh,
Yeah. So she's a Jedi with like red hair. She's a badass. She can hold her own. So she's kind of like Leia in the sense that she's like not just like there to be a pretty love interest. Like she moves forward the plot. She's a badass. She's an excellent fighter. And just I just have an affinity for redheads.
Nice. That's
So
I'm
yeah.
not familiar with this character as well. Have they made like canon reference to her and stuff like? Did they mention what happened to her in the sequel trilogy? Like when we get to the Force Awakens and stuff.
No, I don't think so. No.
I see. Yeah, yeah, because she would be in that time period between Return of the Jedi and the Force Awakens, the same time
Mhm.
period as like the Mandoverse is currently occupying. So somewhere in there between that and old scary grumpy um, Luke in the future. So she was his wife. Then I see. Interesting. I'll have to look her up too. She's more in like the novels and the comic books and stuff.
Yep. So, yep, her name is Mara Jade. She actually has a purple lightsaber like Mace Windu, which is also
Oh,
super cool. Yeah.
nice. Mara Jade Skywalker. That's cool as hell. I'll have to look up her too. That's great. You had two picks that I'm not as deeply familiar with or really super familiar with at all. So that's cool. Nice. Do you have more thoughts on that?
Now we can move on to your next pick.
Okay. So my next pick, before I do the next pick, I want to do a quick honorable mention, and so I'm not waiting for the end to do all of them just because it's relevant. So my honorable mention is Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, and I'll only say something very briefly. It's the only reason that I would put that character as a honorable mention. I love that character is because I like that character up until episode 11 of season 2. And I despise everything that kind of has happened with Mandalorian since. But that's um so honorable mention. Also, he's very hot. He's like we like. I love a sexy Star Wars character, and there's been a lot of them recently.
Yeah.
And yeah, our boy Pedro Pascal, for those that don't know, that's who plays Din Djarin. Even though you hardly ever see him, he's still sexy even without seeing him. It's so
Yeah.
cool. Like he's really good at that. Um, but
I feel like just Mandalorians in general are sexy. It's something about the
correct.
helmet.
So the reason that I said Din Djarin is my honorable mention that's going to lead into my next choice. So my second choice, as you said, a lot of Mandalorians are sexy. So my second choice, I guess as an adult, you say is a very attractive Mandalorian, a beautiful Mandalorian, and that would be Sabine Wren. It's my second
That's a
pick.
good choice. Yeah.
Sabine Wren. I absolutely love Sabine. She's fucking awesome. She's so great in Rebels. She's this really cool, interesting character. I liked her way more than Ezra, who I don't dislike, but I really, really like uh my my brain just Sabine Wren. Oh my gosh, wow, that was not very good there. My brain froze while I had like a glitch in the matrix there. But yeah, Sabine Wren. So she first appears in Rebels in the cartoon. She's one of the main characters all through Rebels. And then this year, she made her live action debut. Well, I guess I should say last year in Ahsoka, and takes place much after Rebels. And she is played by Natasha Liu Bordizzo, who is just incredible in this role. She's so good in this show in Ahsoka, and her, along with almost everybody else in the show Ahsoka, are so hot. I'm just gonna put that out
Yeah.
there. Um,
Yeah.
Natasha Liu Bordizzo, not only is she phenomenal in this role, but she is absolutely like one of the most beautiful people ever. And I recently learned that Sabine Wren in Star Wars Rebels is voiced by Tia Sircar, the actress,
Mhm.
and she's also one of the most beautiful people on the planet. If you don't know who she is, have you seen The Good Place? Right? I think we talked about that
Yep.
before. She was Vicky in The Good Place. Like, if you remember that
Okay.
character, she's like one of the people she works for The Good Place or The Habit. I had spent a minute since I seen the show, but she's part of the the infrastructure of The Good Place and is sort of an antagonist to the main characters or whatever. Yeah, in the later season, towards the end of that show. But yeah, and she's also very she does a lot of the game shows that I mentioned in the first half of the show. And so she's really great at that. But I love Sabine Wren. She's just like the coolest Mandalorian. And she has this the stuff that she saved Ahsoka to me. Like, she was the bright spot of the show. Ahsoka was her character, and she was one of the main central focuses of that show. And if you haven't seen it, I think some people are starting to get maybe Star Wars fatigue and are kind of starting to dog some of the Disney Plus Star Wars shows that have come out. But I really liked the show Ahsoka, and everyone is so hot. Sabine is super hot. Ezra is super hot. There's there's a daddy guy who passed away, Ray Stevenson, with the big beard, who's like hunting them. Him and
Oh
his
yeah.
sort of, I can't remember her name, but she's kind of like Norwegian, sort of very blonde, pale looking sidekick who's just also like deadly beautiful. And then of course we have Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka, who very easily could have been on my list of characters as well. But I chose to talk about Sabine Wren, who is co-star in Ahsoka. And so, yeah, that's it for my thirsting over the cast of Ahsoka, and particularly the actresses who play Sabine Wren in live action and voice work. So, do you have thoughts on that horny entry into the list? And what is your next pick?
Oh, that's an excellent choice. Sabine is definitely on my very long short list.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just love all the Mandalorians, and Sabine is very hot. Yes. But my final pick is a departure, because these are definitely characters who were in live action and are pretty popular. But I'm gonna give my final spot a tie between Darth Maul and Qui-Gon.
Wait,
I feel like they
you
kind
broke
of
up.
go together.
You said, oh, Darth
No,
Maul and
sorry, it's
Qui-Gon Jinn. Is that
Qui-Gon
what you
Jinn
said?
and Darth Maul.
Yeah, okay, that's what I
Yeah.
thought. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of had a feeling you were maybe going to pick a Darth Maul. I had a feeling for some reason, but go ahead, please.
Yeah, for some reason, because he's amazing. He's a
Yeah.
badass. He's like a horror villain in Star Wars, which is amazing. That makeup is just iconic. Like, that will be a Halloween costume for decades to come. And he's just like, his lightsaber skills are badass. The actor who played him like still posts like, videos of him doing like tricks with his lightsabers, everything. He loved that role so much, and it like shows so much in the screen. Like, I know a lot of people loved to hate on the prequels, especially when they came out, but I think Darth Maul really was a bright spot that everyone could agree was
Correct.
just an amazing character. And I feel
He's
like the same goes for Qui-Gon Jinn. Like,
oh, right.
as
Yes,
a
yes.
Jedi, he added so much depth to just the Jedi in general. And he was like such a well-rounded character. Liam Neeson is a piece of shit, but
Oh,
he
yeah,
played
that's
the
come out
role
recently.
very well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's very racist and stuff, right? Yeah. But yeah, that's a great duo. And I want to echo what you're saying about how even the biggest haters of episode one were like, Darth Maul pretty cool though. Like, everybody loves Darth Maul. And it's just the most iconic, like the visuals, the makeup, the whole thing. Like, anyone my age, I dare say, or approximately within their age range, can picture Darth Maul's face on a moment. You can. I know you can. Everybody can. It's like the best. And the Darth Maul's sort of second legs, so to speak. I didn't mean that as a pun, but I guess it is kind of a pun because he did get second legs, and got his body put back together. But his resurgence or coming back to life or re-entering the storyline and throughout, I want to say Clone Wars, but I know for sure Rebels, in the cartoons, and as well as like the backstory on board his whole type of people, and his brother, Savage Press, who has the funniest name in all of Star Wars. It's Savage
Yep.
Press, but it's Savage Cross or something. Yeah. What's the? Do you remember the name of that type of like that race that they are?
Let me look it up. I always forget.
Yeah, Darth Maul rules, and so does Qui-Gon Jinn. Like people hate on episode 1 all the time, but I like it. I mean, it's iconic in so many ways. And the Duel of the Fates, come on. Darth Maul, he's fighting Qui-Gon Jinn. It's like that's almost more famous than the Star Wars riff. Like the main riff, it's like that iconic of music from that fight scene. Oh, Daphne.
You were breaking up a little. What'd you say?
Oh no. Okay. Shit. I was saying that the Duel of the Fates, the song from when Darth Maul and Qui-Gon Jinn is one of the most when they fight, it's one of the most iconic songs in all of Star Wars. It's the most iconic, almost more iconic than the main Star Wars music. It's up there. And I was going to say Darth Maul is from Dathomir. That's what it is. Dathomir. Am I still breaking up a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why it's doing that. Let me exit out some windows. Okay. Do you have more on Darth Maul and Qui-Gon Jinn?
No, I'll just have to say the fight between them, I still just like watch that randomly. It's so iconic.
It's so good. There's so many parts of that movie that are so good, and I think it gets such a bad rap. And I know that's like kind of a cliche statement at this point in time because a lot of people are like, "Oh, the prequels were actually good," but that first one was like dogged as being like one of the worst movies ever. But that's still the one everyone remembers the most. It's got some of the most iconic scenes from the pod racing to the like I said, that fight scene, Darth Maul, Qui-Gon Jinn, like those characters. That's where they came from, and they didn't survive that movie, and they lived on forever. Otherwise,
Yeah.
And unless you have more to say on that, that actually brings me to my third pick.
Yeah, go for it.
My top 3 favorite Star Wars characters. And my number 3 on this list shares the screen with the 2 characters that you mentioned. Made it his debut, and that is what he is most known for, and you probably know where I'm going with this. And my top 3, third on my list, favorite Star Wars character is none other than Jar Jar Binks.
I should have known. I should have known that your number 1 would be Jar Jar.
I am a Gungan apologist to the day I die. I love that whole race of weird fish people and their weird rivalry with the other weird fish people. But that's so Jar Jar Binks, one of the most polarizing characters in all of Star Wars. Everybody hated him. I guess there's accusations of racism. I guess I have to mention that, despite the fact that Jar Jar was played by a black man, Ahmed Best, which is I really want to get into more of his story too, which is so the thing. There's a couple reasons why I love Jar Jar. One is because he's hated on, and I like to be that guy. And he's so funny to me. But also, like with some of the other characters I've talked about, he had more of an arc in the cartoons than in the show. And they really sort of gave him and his people, they did him justice in the cartoons by exploring more of the Gungan race and their backstory. And I mean, they really didn't know what to do with Jar Jar for the rest of the prequel trilogy because he was so hated on, and they like made him a dignitary, and then he essentially kind of causes everything bad that happens in the prequels because he's like the one that puts Palpatine into power. He's the one that like the puppet that they get to do that. But I think that he gets a bad rap, and I really enjoy the stuff in the Clone Wars. There's a female Gungan. They go to a planet where they meet basically Jar Jar in drag, and it's so reminiscent of like old Looney Tunes cartoons, like Bugs Bunny dresses like in drag and stuff. And like, but it's not. It's supposed to be a different character, but it's so funny to me. It's like Jar Jar looking pretty, and they're like really cool. And I like their whole. I like him more in that. And the character, the voice actor, Ahmed Best faced death threats and all sorts of horrific things after this movie came out, just like the actor who played Anakin in the first movie. And he's come out, and Ahmed Best, he's come out in past years, you know, saying that he even it got so bad, it was like contemplating suicide and was really struggling with his mental health. And because he was constantly the abuse that he got for playing Jar Jar Binks, which is a very controversial character. And I understand the issues that some people can have with it, and the valid criticism of the character, I think, is valid. But I don't think that's what most of what was being levied at this guy. And he recently was made a cameo. He had a comeback. He played in a flashback in Mandalorian, I want to say. It was either Ahsoka or Mandalorian. But Ahmed Best made his return to Star Wars in live action, playing like a new character. And so he's been introduced as someone other than Jar Jar. And
That's awesome.
yeah, and the last thing I'll say about Jar Jar is that when he was originally came about, when he was originally first conceptualized by George Lucas, he thought of him as his version of Disney's Goofy, the character Goofy, and that Michael Jackson was originally in talk slash thought of as the original Jar Jar. So knowing that in history of Jar Jar is I don't know, I like that context of it too. Like when you think of him more as like Goofy. But so there's my Jar Jar rant. Do you have thoughts on that?
No, I definitely agree that a lot of the hate for Jar Jar was definitely racist. Because even aside from a black actor playing him, I think he was definitely coded as a black man for sure. And a lot of the like jokes that people would make about Jar Jar felt very much like we're making fun of a certain type of black person. And I'm glad to see Jar Jar is getting some love now, because I have seen all the videos where the actors like talking about how like it really took a toll on his mental health. And like even before you said this was your final pick, when I was talking about Darth Maul, I was going to say I think the two like even though people hate on the prequels, two of the most iconic like visually Star Wars characters. Like if you talk to people who have never seen any of the movies, they would recognize Darth Maul and they would recognize Jar Jar. So I think like he's becoming definitely an iconic character, and people are starting to admit that more, especially now that a lot of people who like grew up on the prequels are adults now and could talk about their love for the movies.
Right. And the one other like I mean not other, but like you're saying, the some of the hate for Jar Jar was racist, but also there's both. So it was like there's people that hated that Jar Jar was a black character because they don't like black people, right? There's racist. But then there's also the way in which Jar Jar depicted like as a stereotypical, so black character. And so there was pushback on his character actually being racist, but then at the same time, racist hated him, not because just because he existed as a black actor and was very like bad. So there are jokes about him, and the reason why they despise him is the same reason why they despise black people, internally or whatever. So
Yeah, I don't even think it was so much that it was a black actor. I think it was more that the character was black coded. So they were just like, we do not like this.
right, for sure. But yeah,
Like they accept Samuel L. Jackson, so Mace Windu was fine, but they hated Jar Jar, which was very interesting.
yeah. Samuel L. Jackson has always occupied this very interesting space despite being like a very, very black, for some
Yeah.
reason he
It's
exists in
him and
white
Morgan
people's
Freeman. Like
right.
white
They
people
exist
love
in
them.
white people's mind as like, oh, what are the good ones or the other one or whatever, just historically throughout like time. But yeah.
Mm.
Um and the prequels gave us Mace Windu also. They gave us Sam Jackson and the purple lightsaber. So I didn't
Yeah.
expect this to turn into a prequel apologist video, but I kind of did. I had a feeling that we both loved the prequels, just like to some degree. And yeah, Jerry Moore, Star Wars thoughts.
Um, no, just that was a very hard topic. I wish we would have narrowed it down a
I
little bit
know
more.
we
But
can still do
there's so
that.
many like awesome Star Wars characters that we could do definitely more Star Wars top threes in the future.
Yeah, we could do. Yeah, exactly. These are just the three I wanted to talk about this time, and I didn't want to go into a full list of honorable mentions because, like, we could talk about them at future dates. I didn't want to just burn a list, but I wanted to mention. Only reason I mentioned the Jim Jarn was because of the Mandalorian thing, and I wanted to objectify a male before I went into objectifying the female Mandalorian. Yeah, equal opportunity creep over here. Sorry. Uh, no, I'm just kidding. All right. So yeah, that about does it for our Star Wars conversation. I think it is up to you what we're gonna do next.
Yep. So our next top three will be top three movies that are so bad they're good.
Oh, interesting. This is Madam Web inspired, I would say, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, cool. I am very excited about that. On our next episode, which may be next week or maybe the week after. We might be going bi-weekly-ish, but right, bi-weekly maybe, or maybe every week. It's sort of a surprise every week. Some weeks will be there in your feed, and some weeks you can just watch the previous weeks, and we'll be back the next week. I think that's more than fair. But yeah, so I guess this is the time where like you should check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/add something of a podcast. We have full episodes on there, clips and all kinds of different stuff. Also follow us on Instagram at something of a pod. I think we do have a Facebook that automatically got made, but I haven't posted it on there. But follow us there too. If that's your thing, you can find something of a podcast on Facebook. I myself, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and YouTube. All of them at Mike Gamms. You can find me there. And KaiVonDoom, where can the people find you?
On Instagram at Kai_VonDoom or Facebook at KaiVonDoom Comedy.
Nice. Or every Monday at the Boulder Coffee Open Mic in Rochester, New York, and you can find me there on occasion too. And stay tuned to our pages for other appearances and places you can see us. And we'll be back sometime soon with another episode. Thanks for listening. And this is something of an ending to something of a podcast. All right.
I'm something of a podcast myself. I'm something of a podcast myself. I'm something of a podcast. I'm something of a podcast. I'm something of a pod.